But there's one other thing I'd like to just mention very briefly that I've been thinking about, want to get your impact and input on. We haven't really talked about this, but what about the idea of the unfair and deceptive acts and practices? So you enter into a marriage, you think that it's a legally protected institution, but it's not. There's no legal protection in it. And yet the state is kind of giving you the impression that it is legally protected. So, and I'm just trying to think through some of the ramifications of this, but I'm just wondering if we could use that the idea of entering into marriage. The state has approved of this and everything like that. There should be additional disclosures. I think with the family law attorneys, when they take up your case in divorce, they should tell a person who is the respondent, you cannot win, because the petitioner will always win without exception. What they try to do is say, we'll get a better deal for you. They're lying to you. I mean, they may get a better deal for you, but you still will lose your marriage, your family, whatever it may be. And like you said earlier, if a person wants to leave the marriage, he or she can leave, but they don't get to plunder everything on the way out. And they don't get to go on the way out and say, by the way, I've left all the windows and the doors open so that the attorneys can plunder it. And by the way, I put the special clause in there so now that the attorney general can come after you and put you in jail. And so to me, I don't know what your thoughts are about this whole thing about the unfair and deceptive acts and practices, but do you have any comments regarding that?
Well, I mean, technically speaking, the family law code is the kind of disclaimer, but who reads that? And I think that there is something to be said for, making these things more known to people before they enter into this legal status, supposed legal status that really is not a legal status. Right. And, they should be aware of what they're getting themselves into, knowing full well that at any moment in time, that their spouse can file based on just a feeling or their will. And the state is basically 100% going to be on their side. And then all you have to deal with is the custody and the finances. And again, if you're a traditional woman, or if you're a man with wealth, these kind of things are to your disadvantage because you will be plundered, and so and exploited and taken advantage of. And but there was something that I was going to say is that, a lot of people are going through this for the first time in their lives. I mean, they don't know what the process is. They get an attorney who is most likely in favor of no-fault divorce. Very few are against it. And
because that's where their money comes in.
That's where their money is. Yeah, absolutely. And so people are going through this for the first time. They don't know what the process is. Their attorney is likely against them without knowing it. And they'll just play along and pretend, until things are over. And they'll sympathize with you and try to be, emotionally supportive and all that kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, they have no interest in your life. And once they get enough out of you, they'll just toss you to the street. So, people just don't know what they're getting themselves into. And that's one of the reasons why you and I are so vocal about this and trying to explain to people who just don't know. I mean, there are very intelligent people out there who are very aware of a lot of things that are going on, and they have no clue what unilateral no-fault divorce is, and they have no idea how that impacts people's lives. And yet they know people who have been affected by it, and yet they still don't understand that it was because largely due to unilateral no-fault divorce, which again opens the door to this totalitarian state. A state in which is not just a dictatorship, let's say, but is actually interested in spreading their tentacles into your private life in your home. So I've known people too that they've ended up committing suicide because of this stuff. And and they see where it's going. There's not a light at the end of the tunnel in most of these cases, because when you're talking about 95% of your wealth going to your spouse who filed against you for the rest of your life. Sometimes
it's very unjust.
It's absolutely.
You talked about, just to follow up with just one other thing here, Chris Clay, he's one of the guys up here who's his case is being heard before the Texas State Supreme Court right now. But the attorney from the other side basically said that once you enter into the the courts, you lose your constitutional rights. I mean, I heard that. I'm like, you've got what?
Now
You
that's a
get
disclaimer
dragged.
if I ever heard one.
Yeah, but this was part of the argument. And I have to go back over and listen to it again, but you're right, because the state comes in and the state either thinks itself to be the super parent or the dictator. This is a dictatorship. This is a tyranny. And we don't talk about what it really is. It is a tyranny. It is a place where you lose rights. And it is a place where you get financially exploited and raped. You have attorneys talking about the best interest of the child, knowing full well, lying to your face, because the best interest of the child is for the parents to reconcile. The children have no way to protest what's going to affect their lives for the rest of their lives. They have no way to say, listen, I don't want my mommy and daddy to get divorced. I want them to figure it out and to work together. I love them both. They have no right. This is a brutal, tyrannical, it is an unghastly system, and we call it family court.
Well, yeah, and not only do they encourage resolution between spouses, they actually discourage it. They will do anything, even telling their client not to even discuss, not even to have conversations with the other spouse, even when they're still trying to co-parent. And so these people are ruthless. They're it does, for lawyers, it comes down to greed. For judges, it comes down to expediency. For other, social.
I think it comes down to a power trip with some of these judges at times too.
Absolutely.
But anyway, I'm sorry to interrupt you.
No. When the state assumes a parental role, and now all of a sudden, instead of establishing just order in society and knowing their limits as to what they can get involved in, now they've assumed a parental role in the lives of people and assumed the role of micromanaging their lives, telling them where to live in many cases, telling them how much to give to their ex-spouse, telling them, which psychological, sessions they should be having with their psychologist, these re-education camps in many cases. All of this stuff is just this excessive overreach of the state, of the government. And it's just, there's no end unless we push back.
And to go back, and then we'll close up pretty quickly after this, but you're talking about what the state can order you to do. So you're familiar with Jeff Younger case, and Jeff has been fighting for his son, who his ex-wife wants to transition into a girl. So what did the courts do? And this is a judge situation, and this is what the whole system rewards. They're trying to bankrupt him. They're mandating he's got to pay for counseling for various things for his son. I think it's up to $7,000 a month. $7,000 a month with some nonsense counselor. So, and Matt, there are instances as well of the judge having friends, and the friends, judge and the child custody evaluator and the judge are friends. The counselor and the judge are friends, and it's kind of like, I'm shoveling money your way. And these child custody evaluators, some of them are awful. They don't even know. Again, the child custody evaluator, what are they doing? I've seen cases where they've been charging $50,000. $50,000 for what? It's just nonsense. It is a dictatorship. It's a mafia, crime-ridden organization. It's a cartel, whatever you want to call it, except that they aren't quite as, the cartels and the mafia are not quite as bad as the family court organization.
Absolutely. Final thoughts. I think you're right. I think it's a more subtle and insidious way of going about what mafias in New York City and Italy and those places do. I mean, it's definitely a mafia-run system. It's just undercover, and it's under the guise of law and our legal system. Yeah. I think we need to continue to fight back wherever we can. I think we need to mobilize, because there's a lot of people that have been influenced by this stuff, and we just need to agree on what we want to fight. And we need to put caps on these lawyers. They can make a certain amount of money because it's a civil, not a criminal case, but there should be caps, especially for family law. Absolutely. Limitations. And there should be, like you said, more disclaimers about what you're getting yourself into. When you get a marriage license, you are subject to unilateral divorce and the state's complete intrusion into your life thereafter.
Right.
And then see how people respond to that when they're knowledgeable about what actually goes on, because most people, and understandably so, are ignorant about how the system works until they actually experience it themselves.
Yeah. Anyway, there's so much more I know we could talk about here. But once again, every time I talk with you, I get to learn something new. I've took down a few notes as well. Want to just thank you. For anybody who doesn't know you, Matt Johnston has also founded a Facebook group called what is No Fault Divorce, or I forget what the exact title is.
It's called No Fault Divorce and Why It's Bad.
And why it's bad. Yeah.
But if you just look up No Fault Divorce, it's one of like 2 or 3 pages that deal with the issue. And I know the other folks that are running those other groups. But yeah, please join, and I'll definitely accept you into the group. Okay.
And once again, thank you so much. Appreciate it. Thanks for sharing your perspective. We wish we could have had another hour to go with this. But thank you so much. And I think I'm going to call Eric back on. I know he hasn't been feeling well, but he's going to close us out here. So Eric, if you want to close us out, feel free to do so. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being here.
Thanks, Jeff. Right. Thanks, Eric.
Hey, y'all did an amazing job tonight. Thank you for that conversation, everybody. And if you would, Troy is live in the support group right now. If you would like to join the conversation, if you got any questions, maybe you got something that you heard here tonight, please join us over in the support group, and the conversation continues. Thank you so much, gentlemen.
Thank you so much, Eric. Thanks, Matt.